Welcome. Hope you all are having a wonderful start to your day. Where I'm in California, and it is the morning time. It's 9 o'clock. So I said I was going to come on here, go live this morning at 9. Since it's my first time going live here on TikTok, I had to verify my age and different stuff like that to make sure I was over 18. So we got that done. So we're a couple minutes behind coming on. But all right, I wanted to come on here first off because I'm kind of new to TikTok. It took me a little bit to be able to get myself over here. All right, but I wanted to just be able to allow you to get to know me a little bit more, right? You guys have found me for the most part from my posts, obviously, focusing in on, movement and nourishment and mindfulness. And my biggest thing is just bringing you all tips from things that I've learned on my journey. All right. Pretty much everything that I share and speak about were all things that I've learned from dealing with life, right? Whether it be, messed up joints, speak about were all things that I've learned from dealing with life, right? Whether it be, messed up joints or now I've been on my journey, all right, for about 10 years now. Um, I was a full-blown drug addict. I was in addiction for about 10 years of my life. Kind of started off in middle school, got really heavy into high school, and then all the way until I was about 23, I had my first son, my first kid, which really changed my life. All right. But, what kind of led into the addiction and whatnot, as I said, I was addicted to drugs for about 10 years of my life. Pretty much did every single type of drug that you can think of. My personal choice, all right, was pills, cocaine, and meth. All right. And then I drank alcohol and smoked cigarettes to go with it. But yeah, it took up again about 10 years of my life. And I had a lot of struggles. There was nothing that I can really quite remember that was really good about it. However, I did meet my wife during that time of my life. And we both struggled with that for about 4 or 5 years together. We both kind of went on our own journey to get cleaned up and be able to cut ties with the addictions that we had to drugs and whatnot, and we're able to move forward. All right, but there were a series of events that I had to go through that were extremely challenging. All right. I was so deep into the drugs and everything like that to the point that like I was selling them and stuff like that during high school. First off, I'm from California, San Diego, and right now I'm 33. So I pretty much got my life together and stuff at the age of 23, and that's when I had my first kid. I was not planning on having my first child at 23. Really, I looked at being able to have kids and everything into my 30s because there was a lot that I wanted to do with my life before I had kids, because I knew that once you have children, a lot of shit gets put on hold for yourself. So another thing you probably don't know about me is I'm a musician. That's why I got my Iron Maiden shirt on today. I play guitar, I do a little bit of singing, and so with that, I've been playing and doing music professionally since I was 12 years old, so a little over 20 years. And that was another big thing. I play rock and roll music mainly. The whole narrative about rock is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's primarily the lifestyle that I lived. Mainly once I turned about 15, 16 is when I started playing out at shows, even, clubs and touring and doing all that kind of stuff. And in that lifestyle, it's like, what's your drug of choice? What do you want? And when you're up there playing, everyone wants to be able to hook you up with stuff. So, there was a point in my life where I was like, oh, I'm not a drug addict because I get it all for free. You're only a drug addict when you spend your own money on the shit. So I was a little bit in denial at that point, but then, like I said, in order to support myself and survive and make money and pay for the things that I needed to. Music doesn't pay a lot of money at all. So I got into selling the shit. And, for a while, I was really into growing marijuana. I was actually going to go to botany, get a botany degree at one of my local colleges here in San Diego to continue because marijuana was becoming legal here in California. And I enjoyed smoking marijuana and using marijuana. I still do use a little bit for certain situations. But I did see that there were quite a few benefits to certain things. I also suffer from PTSD. So that's a big one that there's a lot of research and stuff that certain strains of marijuana and stuff can help with the PTSD. I really wanted to dive in more so for the holistic purposes and the growing and understanding all of that with marijuana. So I ended up growing it. Did really well with that. Started selling to some of the dispensaries and stuff when they started popping up here in San Diego. But I was also doing a lot of other things. I was still doing cocaine. I was still, doing meth. I was still, doing all the different pills that I could get myself on. Really, the biggest thing that, and I'm glad that I didn't get into, was heroin and Oxycontin. All right. I've had probably about 15 of my friends die that I've grown up with due to heroin and Oxycontin, or getting into the struggle of being able to get that stuff, which a lot of them, ended up getting into armed robberies and doing a lot of bad stuff in order to, get what they needed to be able to get the drugs that they needed. So it's really sad. And I'm just very thankful and grateful that first I didn't die, or I wasn't thrown in jail for the rest of my life, because what I'm about to get into next was kind of one of the big pivot and transformation points in my life that I haven't really shared at all over, my 10-year journey of transforming my life. Like I said, I was growing marijuana. I was growing a lot of it. And I was doing pretty good. I built my own entire hydroponic system and was very, very specific with how I was doing it and the strains and everything for a specific purpose. And I was doing research on how these different strains affected different people and in some of the different ailments that they had. So I've always been into wanting to be able to help people, whether it be through my music and being able to allow people to enjoy, what I'm able to bring through music, or, I started finding out that, wow, marijuana is helping a lot of people in certain ways, whether it be, with depression or PTSD or bulimia or, pain and stuff like that. It's just, once we get past the use of using it for something good and we become addicted to it, we start needing it because you can't eat or you can't sleep and you become dependent on it. That's where the problem, all right, comes in. I'm getting a notification. I don't comply because I'm talking. I don't know. I'm okay. I'm getting a live restriction, so I'm not sure if someone doesn't like me talking about my story. I don't know how this really works because, again, this is my first time, but I got 2 restrictions. I don't know if I'm going to get put off here, but again, I'm just trying to explain my story, my point of view, and my journey. So if something that I say doesn't align with you, or you don't like what I'm saying, you're completely, you're allowed to have your opinion, but I would appreciate if you just left instead of, I don't know how these restrictions came on. Maybe no one did. Maybe they're just picking something up from what I'm saying. But again, my purpose was to come on here and just explain my story, because this is who I am. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have dealt with these same things. And I don't feel like a lot of people really talk about their story, especially the struggles. And if you don't like what I'm saying now, what I'm about to get into is a lot heavier. So again, if this isn't for you, then I would suggest then just move on. And I mean that in the most loving way possible. All right. So my journey continued. Again, I was growing a bunch of stuff, and, word kind of got out because I was doing well. And when you're in that kind of industry, there's really no rules to business competition. So with that, obviously when we think about drugs and stuff like that, who are the main people that are usually selling them? All right, besides the pharmacists. Anyways, sorry, not trying to offend anyone. All right, but usually it's your local gangs and stuff like that, and yeah, that's the case. All right, so I started doing my own thing, and when I first got into all this stuff, yeah, I was supplied by some of the local people in my area, and I worked for them and whatnot. And but then I started doing it on my own because I was like, why am I giving these people money when I can do this on myself and just keep it myself? Well, that didn't really go over too well. People didn't like that, because I was taking money from their business. So one morning, all right, I was woken up in my house where I was growing my stuff, and 4:30 in the morning by three men in ski masks, and basically, they wanted everything that I had. They had guns, ski masks, the whole deal. Didn't know who they were or anything. Literally thought I was in a bad dream until I got smacked in the face with one of the guns, and then that woke me up. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was with me, and shit just got crazy. Ended up focusing in on being able to do something. However, everything really kind of went black. Didn't really remember too much, besides the fact of getting woken up and getting hit in the face, and then I would realize that two of the guys had left. Long story short, all right. I didn't get shot, luckily, and neither did my girlfriend at the time, or my wife now. And but the thing is that two of them had left. One of them stayed back, continuing asking for whatever I had. They thought I had a bunch of marijuana growing that they were going to be able to take and go sell, and basically put me out of the game. Again, I focused in on defending myself and my wife now, and one thing led to another. Defending myself, and the one that stayed ended up passing away. Not something that I wanted to do, you know what I mean? I was in fear of my life, of my wife's life, of everything. I had a roommate at the time too. But the crazy thing that happened as after we were doing whatever, again, I don't quite remember exactly what happened. I guess in some situations you kind of just, everything goes red, or you just black out, and the adrenaline and everything takes over, and natural instinct for me was able to take place, and I was able to defend myself. We were able to get him to the door and push him out, and that's when his ski mask came off, and we were able to see who it was. And it was actually one of our friends. And he was older than me. I knew him from school, and it was actually my wife, who's my wife right now. It was her first boyfriend in elementary school, when they were like 8, 9 years old. So that was extremely challenging. I didn't understand why the fuck he had just done this. And next thing I look, I'm covered in blood, and I was losing my mind. I didn't know what the fuck just happened, what to do, or anything. And it was extremely, extremely, I don't know, dude. It was one of the most intense and crazy experiences I've ever had to go through. Next thing I know, a few minutes later, I start hearing sirens, and I start seeing the cops swarming my street, my house. And yeah, next thing I know, I get a phone call, and it was my wife's mom telling me that she was outside and that I needed to come outside, and I needed to talk with the police and explain what's going on, and that the person that I had defended myself is now dead around the corner. So, again, I'm in my boxers. I was woken up out of bed at 4:30 in the morning with three guys with guns and ski masks. And now it is about 5:30, almost 6 o'clock-ish or something like that, if I remember correctly. And with that, all right, finally, I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. I now see that there's like 15, 20 cops with their guns pointed at my house. I'm now hearing them on a bullhorn or, a speaker saying, "Hey, Christian, come out of the house with your hands up," and blah, 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 blah. So I did eventually. I was sitting there crying, just smoking like 10 cigarettes at a time, not knowing what the hell to do. And so eventually I came out. I was really scared that I was going to get shot, because that's what happens sometimes. But I came out, my hands up, crying, just asking them, "Please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me." And I walked to them. They saw, obviously, I had nothing on me. I was just in my boxers. They threw me to the ground. They handcuffed me, and they put me in the back of a car, police car. So from there, sat in that car for a long time. And then finally they drove me down to our headquarters, and they listed me in, they wrote me in, they took all my clothes, they did all the whole deal. If you've ever had to go through that, which is not fun at all. And then they put me in an all white jumpsuit and put me in an isolation room and handcuffed me to the bench. And then I was there for about 12 hours, did a polygraph test, did multiple interviews and stuff like that, to explain what happened. And then obviously they wanted to know a lot of other information about the people that were involved and what I did and everything like that. Long story short, really woke me the fuck up. And it really made me realize that if I did not stop what I was doing, that I was either going to end up dead or I was going to end up in jail for the rest of my life. All right. God truly gave me a second chance to be able to get my life right. And so from that point on, I was released and let go. The guys that had broken in and whatnot were actually wanted for multiple home invasions, multiple robberies on lots of dispensaries and different things, and gang affiliation. So these were guys that they wanted to be able to get off the streets, and that were doing a lot of this same stuff to a lot of other people. All right. I had 3 friends that I grew up with that were growing as well, that came out to me afterwards and said they had done the same thing to them weeks and months before. However, their situation was a little bit worse. And so I was very grateful and thankful that I didn't have to live through their situation and what they did. I hate the outcome that happened, truly, especially after I found out who it was. It's never something that I would ever want to happen. However, it did. And it took me a long time to be able to work through that and let all that shit go and realize that, like, I had to do what I had to do to defend myself. I had no understanding of what really was going on. And at a point, I am grateful that I was able to defend myself, that I was capable. Another thing that you probably don't know about me is that I trained martial arts for about the first 10 years of my life, from about the age of 4 all the way up to about 14, and I got a 2nd degree black belt with that. So to a sense, I'm happy that I had that training and I knew what to do and I was able to do something. However, again, like, it really sucked to have to do what I had to do and defend myself in that way. All right, so I hope you can hear me. I got a trash truck driving by, but that's why we got this thing, because there's always noise out here. So try to be able to allow you all to hear me the clearest and the best that you can. All right, from that point, I had to do something. There was a lot of pushback and different things that I was getting from some of the people that they were affiliated with, some of the gangs and stuff, and I needed to get the hell out of here. So I went and put myself into isolation out in the mountains. Luckily, I've got grandparents that own some property out in the mountains that are kind of close to me. So I packed up my shit and I went out there for about 6 months and just isolated myself. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't even talk to my girlfriend, really. And I just focused in on getting myself right. Getting off the drugs, the addiction that I was living in, and just working through some of the mental stuff. The 6-month time was able to get me clean off of drugs and alcohol, and but the mental stuff was still extremely fucked up. I was dealing with heavy PTSD, waking up. I mean, every single morning I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning and be freaking out, looking out the window, checking everything, thinking that there are people in my house. And that's kind of what happens with PTSD when you go through a post-traumatic situation that really, really has a big impact in your life negatively. Those things come up. I've had a lot of friends that have been in the military that suffer from PTSD from crazy situations that they had to live through. So one of the biggest things that helped me with my PTSD was seeking help. Luckily, my mom helped me find a therapist, and the right therapist. Excuse me. Hold on, I'm gonna drink some of my lemon salt water. So when you're looking to find help for yourself mentally and you're going to look into finding a therapist, it's important to do some research first. All right. And it's important to understand the different types of treatments that they offer for, therapy from a psychologist. I do not suggest seeing a psychologist. All right. I mean, not a psychologist. You want to see a psychologist, psychiatrist. I can't speak right now. You know what I mean. All right. We want to be able to work through problems and situations and experiences with someone. All right. By taking pills and medications is only going to mask it and push it down deeper. The issue is always still going to be there. So it's important that you find someone to talk to that has experience and has the proper knowledge and protocols to be able to actually help you, right? So for me personally, I seeked out a EMDR specialist. All right. And with this, basically with EMDR, it's a little bit of hypnosis, but they're able to tap into your nervous system and you're able to kind of go back, really go back and visualize everything. Now it is quite intense because you're pretty much reliving the experience that you went through. And that could be very challenging for people depending on, what the situation was and how long it's been. For me, it was about 9 to 12 months before I started talking to someone. And I talked to them for a little over a year to be able to really help make some change in my life and change my mental state and how I was processing everything and my level of capacity. Because again, when you have PTSD or you struggle with any of these mental illnesses, your capacity for stress is barely ever there sometimes. And sometimes you just flip out or you can get triggered by certain things that make you freak out. And I was experiencing a lot of that. For me, it was the main person that I got in the conflict with had extremely blue eyes. And that's all that I saw through the ski mask. And so those eyes stayed the fuck with me. And whenever I saw blue eyes like that, I freaked out. Ski masks freaked me out. The time of whenever I saw 4:30, it would freak me out. If it was nighttime or early morning and I heard something, I would freak out. And my stress and my tension and everything was just through the roof. I became, I started dealing with pain that I had no idea why I was dealing with it. I was getting sick all the time. All of this bad stuff just continued to happen. So I had to figure out a way to manage this. I had to figure out a way to stop feeling like this. And that's when I started getting into health. And I started trying to be able to figure out ways to naturally be able to help myself and help my mindset and help my body feel good and feel right and not suffer anymore. And so I went for about, this all happened to me when I was about 19 years old. So I went through about 2 to 3 years of trying to figure out how to fix myself. I started seeing therapists, which was really good. But again, that was only one part of my healing journey. But again, if you have PTSD or anything, I highly recommend looking into EMDR. EMDR therapy. Finding an EMDR specialist worked wonders for me, and I am extremely grateful that I was able to do that. And also, if you were in a situation, all right, luckily, like I didn't have any money. Like I was selling drugs and playing music. That was my income for the most part. I had odd jobs here and there, but like now, like obviously, I wasn't selling drugs anymore, and I had to get away from all of my music stuff because that was part of the problem as well. So I had to get away from it all. But luckily, I was able to get help from the city based off of that situation that happened to help me get help. So again, there are resources out there if you find yourself in a situation like this. If you are dealing with PTSD, whether it was a situation, just an everyday situation, or if you were in the military, is what I'm trying to get to. There's help, but finding the right person to help you is extremely important. So, through that, I just started researching and trying to be able to, find the right protocols to help heal my body, help heal my mind, and start creating a positive and, a good lifestyle, something that was going to move me forward, something that was going to give me a future. So it was tough. Honestly, a big, thing that I was going into about six, right about like when I started talking to my therapist, I decided that I was going to enlist in the military. I wanted to go into the Coast Guards or go into Border Patrol. I didn't want to have to get, sent overseas to the Middle East. I didn't really quite believe in that whole situation. And so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to help the people here. And I mainly wanted to be able to do something against the drugs that were coming in here. Mainly, all right, the heroin, Oxycontin was super big right now, or then when that was all going down. So I wanted to do something to help stop that, because the people that broke in on me, that's what they did. They were extremely strung out and addicted to heroin and Oxycontin at that time. And at that point in my life, I had lost about 5 friends from overdosing. And so I was really upset. I was really hurt, and I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to be able to stop what was going on, even though later on I realized that it was the pharmaceutical industries that were pushing all the Oxycontin, and it didn't have to do with the drug cartels or anything like that across the border. But I didn't really necessarily know that at the time, and heroin still comes across the border. So I wanted to do something to be able to stop that, to help the situation that was going on in that pandemic of losing more people and having people suffer and die from heroin and Oxycontin. So I enlisted into the Coast Guard. I enlisted into the Border Patrol. I was like, all right, one of these, I'm going to be taken out of the environment that I'm in, and I'm going to be focused in on work. I'm hoping that I'm going to be surrounded by good, focused individuals that I can become friends with, because I wanted friends and I wanted people to talk to. It's not fun having no one to talk to and being alone and just going through this life. It's not fun. So I wanted some friends, and I felt that by me going into the Coast Guard or the Border Patrol, I was going to be able to find like-minded people that were hardworking and that were focused and, doing that. And I went through everything. I did really well. But unfortunately for me, I grew up surfing my whole life. And so I have what they call swimmer's ear. All right. Both my ears have about 90 to 95% closed with bone growth. And you get that from being in the ocean, primarily in cold weather. High winds with cold water, the bone in your ear begins to grow to protect the eardrum. So that began happening. I've been in the water, in the ocean my entire life, surfing, swimming, body surfing, you name it. Spent multiple summers in what we call junior lifeguards here in San Diego. And so I just love the ocean. That's, and plus I'm half Pacific Islander, if you didn't know. So, my whole thing, I'm all about the water, the ocean. That's why I wanted to be a rescue swimmer as one of my things. Going into the Coast Guards, that was like my first choice, was being a rescue swimmer, just because I've, got the experience in the water. However, due to my condition with my ears, supposedly the main doctor there, who didn't like me because I had tattoos and stuff, I didn't have as many as I have now. That was about, over 10 years ago. Obtained a lot more tattoos since then. But he didn't like me. He was very old school. He was an older doctor, and he was like, "This is the worst condition of swimmer's ear I've ever seen, and you have to go get an operation done if you ever want to have a job, with us." And that operation is they basically cut open your ear, and then they take a Dremel and they Dremel out the bone. It's not a fun deal, and something I definitely don't want to willingly go do. So I was like, fuck, all right, I'm not trying to do this. Maybe this is just a sign from God trying to tell me that this is not where I need to be going. So from there, I started trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do? I need a job. I need to work. I was doing odd end jobs while I was living with my grandparents for friends that, have big properties that, need weeds trimming or trees cutting or trash, whatever, when you have a big property, there's a lot of shit to do. So I was getting paid, to do some, odd jobs and stuff like that out in the mountains. But I needed something more substantial. I wanted to come back to my family. I had started talking to my girlfriend again at the time, and I wanted to see her. I missed her. It had been about 6 months that I've been in isolation for. So I was ready to start living life again. And, but with that, I was working out. I was doing some basic workouts and stuff, just mainly body weight training and just running through the land that surrounded my grandparents' house and whatnot out there. And I really enjoyed it. It was something that helped keep my mind focused. It was something that was positive. It got my endorphins running, and you kind of get a good high from it. And so to me, this was like, okay, this is something good that I can do that makes me feel good when I do it. And I focused on eating better and just like eating in general, because when you do cocaine and meth, you don't really eat, and pills, you don't really eat, so I was basically living off of drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes for the most part. I was like 130 something pounds, and so I wanted to change all that. And so I started, I was working out, implementing, taking care of myself and stuff like that, especially as I was getting geared up and wanting to go into the military or into the border patrol. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be fast. I wanted to be capable. So I started focusing in on that and started trying to take care of myself so that I could do whatever I wanted to do once I got in. Again, I didn't get in. Again, some things are just meant to be. So instead, I ended up getting into, fitness. If you didn't know, I got into the fitness industry about 10 years ago. All right. And that's when I really was able to focus in and learn on the right things and start my real health and fitness journey. However, though, once that's about 3-year difference from the time that I got back in, to normal reality, came back to, where I was living, lived with my mom for a little bit because I didn't have any money to be able to get into a place. I didn't have any friends, you know what I mean? I didn't want to move back in with my girlfriend because I still needed time. I started seeing a therapist, and I still had work that I needed to do on me before I started doing anything else. So within that, from 20 to about 23, about the first year, me and my girlfriend took it slow getting back into, the swing of things. But then at 22, we were hanging out a lot more and stuff and doing stuff every day and stuff. But she ended up telling me that she was pregnant. And I basically shit myself because, like I said in the beginning, that's not what I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to have kids at that time. However, though, as I got back in, things were challenging as far as me just staying focused. Going back into the same area where I lived before, it's it's tough because, again, being alone is hard. It's depressing. And especially as I was working through my PTSD, really the only people that I talked to was my mom, My dad a little bit. That point, all right, my parents had divorced. That was a big thing that like led me into my drug use and everything like that. They divorced when I was about 14. The divorce was finalized. My parents lost their house in the 2008 housing crisis, and with all of that, lost their house. My dad lost his business. Like, we lost everything. And it was rough. Me, my mom, and I have a little sister. We were, basically had to live in a 1 bedroom apartment. And I didn't really have any, I didn't have a room. I didn't have any space. I was the only boy with my mom and my sister, so I was the only guy there. And so it was really hard. And I was really angry at the whole situation and everything. And so, when you're a teenager and you're angry, especially at your parents, and you feel like your whole situation is their fault, which it, kind of was, you end up acting out. And that's what I did. I acted out, especially playing rock and roll and doing all of that. It was very easy for me to act out and to do stupid shit and to get involved in, doing bad substances and doing all that. So I struggled. I didn't get back into my addictions, but I found myself starting to put myself in not the best situations and environments, right? So I had to work on that. And then, but having a kid, finding out that I was going to be a dad was something that really changed all of that stuff, which I was, I'm very grateful for. Even though I was scared shitless at the time. I am very grateful that it happened, because again, I was starting to slip back into the same type of environments that I was in before. I started playing music again because it's one of my biggest passions. It's something that makes me truly feel alive, but I needed to be able to play music without the addictions, right? Without having to be high or be drunk whenever I played my guitar or anything like that. And being able to play sober was a big change, especially when you're playing in front of people and playing shows. Like, it's hard. It's hard to get up on stage, whether it's 5 people or 1,000 people. Like, it's still scary. All right. And still, sometimes it's scary now, even though I've been doing it for 20 something years. So those nerves and everything, a lot of times, we'll have some booze to be able to, taper off the nerves. You'll go smoke something to taper off those nerves and all of that stuff. So, I was finding myself slipping back into some of that, but having a kid really like wiped all. I was like, no, like, if I'm going to be a dad, I had a very specific view of myself of being a dad. And a lot of it was from the things that I learned from my own parents and the things that I did not want to do, or how I did not want to be, from watching how my parents were and the things that happened between them and with them. I didn't want to do those things or be like that to my kids. So I started to change. I finally was like, all right, you know what? Like, I really need to take care of myself. I'm going to get a job at a gym. So I got a job at a place called Orange Theory Fitness. And I started there at 23, and I started selling memberships, just the very basic minimum wage, selling memberships, got a commission off the memberships that I sold. But overall, it was a job that I got paid for with an opportunity to make commissions. I was decent at sales. Most of the jobs that I had, and obviously selling, I was sold weed and shit like that. Like, I could sell stuff. So I was like, okay, like, I can do this. I can make money. The commissions are decent. And, I can see myself, growing with this to a certain extent. So I focused in on, working there. It was tough. I had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, be there at 4:30 to open up the studio, and classes started at 5 a.m. and I was there until about 1 o'clock, but I really loved the environment. I really loved the energy. I was finding that everyone there were the exact type of people that I wanted to find, that were focused in on creating the best version of themselves, focused in on building that healthy, active lifestyle, and we're just overall really positive. And I felt really good going there every day, and I felt really good leaving there every day. And the people that I worked with, the coaches and the other, staff at the front were awesome. And those are the people that kind of became my friends to a certain extent. still, I still am a little weird about, um, creating specific relationships and stuff like that, and having friends, especially now, as like I got two kids now, I have a wife, I have a business. Like I don't really have a lot of time to be going and doing stuff. I play in four different bands. Like I got a lot that I got going on. So, I don't have I have a few friends, but I only see them when I have the time to, or talk to them, on the phone. I just, I don't have the time to be able to be having a lot of friends and doing a lot of different things with friends, because I got my family, and that's something that kind of changes. Once you have kids and you have family, unless your friends have kids and you can go do stuff together with your kids and stuff like that, you're not going out doing things with people that don't have kids. You know what I mean? So, that had to change and whatnot. So, but most importantly, the biggest thing that I was there to do was to learn, right? I knew that I enjoyed fitness and health. Sorry, there's a helicopter flying over. I'm not sure how much that's bleeding in. I'll just give it a minute. All right. So, helicopters passed. So, anyways, I had a goal. Once I got there, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I just wanted to be surrounded by a good environment in the health industry and do something positive. I didn't really know where I wanted to take it. But if you've ever taken an Orange Theory class, you know that the classes are like super high energy and they're a lot of fun. Right. And as someone that was just getting into it, I saw these coaches and they were like rock stars. They were on a mic, they were playing loud music and getting everyone hyped up. And like, it looks really, really fun. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to do that. And so, I started to figure out like, hey, what do I have to do in order to possibly become a coach? And well, first you got to go and get your certifications. You got to get back into school, and you got to educate yourself and have those certifications in order to first apply to become a coach. So I was like, all right. So I began that journey and started getting all of my, certifications in line. It was very hard because I hate school. I don't like reading and I don't like taking tests. So it was a challenge for me. All right. I don't like rules. I don't like any of that stuff. I'm a very free thinker and just like to kind of figure things out as I go. So to have to read books and then take tests on the things that I read, I don't do very well with that. And but that's okay. Right. I understand that about myself. I got through it. I had to work very hard. I failed my test 2 times and had to go back and retake it. And then I had to ask for help and someone to kind of tutor me through it. And, but that was the first circumstance where I realized that I needed help and that I had to ask for help. And once I asked for that help, the next time I went and took the test, I passed it. So, lesson there is it is okay to ask for help. All right. So I passed it, went into the interview process, and is a long, grueling process. To become a coach at Orange Theory is not easy. It was about an 8-day process, and there was probably about 20 candidates there who were applying, and I believe only like 5 of us made it through. Every single day they would cut new people. It was like a reality show. Every day they would cut new people. You weren't sure who was coming back the next day, and you went back the next day, you're like, oh, I'm glad you made it, like, awesome, and, weren't sure if they were going to be coming back the next day after that, but I made it through. And then, I went into shadowing and just, worked the process into being able to get on the schedule. And so, I ended up doing that. And yeah, that's, what started my health and fitness journey and then into coaching and educating. And, but once I dove into it, I started educating myself more and more. There were a lot of different things that, would come up. People would ask me different questions after class about, hey, my hip is hurting or my groin area is hurting, or, like I just can't seem to lose weight. I'm coming in, 5-6 times a week, doing everything I can. I can't lose the weight. It's probably about my nutrition. And ultimately, like I found a passion for helping people and being able to help educate people on how to take care of themselves mainly because I remember how much it helped me through the struggle of my addiction and through the struggle of what I had to go through and dealing with my PTSD and all of that. I found that focusing in on my health really was like the light at the end of the road. It was something that gave me hope in being able to move forward in this life. It gave me hope in taking care of myself, and it made me feel good about myself. And I wanted people to be able to know that they can do that too, and to be able to help people through that process from what I learned on my journey. And I found great passion in it. And I felt fulfilled. I felt like I finally had a sense of purpose into why I'm here other than just playing music, right? Um, so I dove into that. I continue to, as much as I don't like reading books and taking tests, I found out ways that like I can continue to educate myself without having to do those things. Doing different workshops and doing different online programs and in-person programs, and just as many different things that I could do that didn't involve taking a multiple choice test or reading a giant book. I am very hands-on. I like to be in person, and that's how I learned the best. So I found the ways and different outlets for me to be able to educate myself in the way that I knew that supported me, right? So I continued on, and it's like, once you get into this field and whatnot, there's so much to learn, and things are always changing. There's new research that's always coming out and different stuff like that. So I found that I really enjoyed it. And yeah, ever since then, again, it's been about 10 years since I started this journey of wanting to help people and educate people and coach people through the process of creating the best version of themselves, create the process of getting away from the addictions and getting away from the negative people and the negative lifestyles and all of that. And seeing that there is hope and there is tons of potential for you to be healthy and for you to truly live your best life. Along the way though, I found myself, still dealing with issues, as I started to continue to work out and build the intensity in which I was working out and have different goals. First I got into the aesthetics. Again, I was, 130 something pounds, no muscle on my body, pretty much just skin and bones, a skeleton with skin on them. And that's what I was. And I was very insecure about it. I didn't like that at all. So I wanted to change that. I wanted to build some muscle and, and be strong, or at least look strong and all that kind of stuff. And so, I really got into the protein and the lifting and the bodybuilding type of stuff and all of that kind of stuff. I never took any steroids or anything like that. But I was all about the protein. I was drinking these 2,500 calorie, 60 grams of protein shakes and all this stuff. And I went from about 130 all the way up to about 165. That was the biggest I've been, 165. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, that's nothing. That's still like, that's what I am like, on my cuts and blah, blah. Anyways, everybody's different. All right. Everybody's different. So my struggle was always building weight, being able to build muscle and keep it on. All right. So I did all that. However, I realized once I got to that point that this wasn't good at all. I wasn't happy. I was dealing with a lot of pain. I couldn't even reach and scratch my shoulder, all right, because my shoulders and my chest and my arms were so big. I could barely even reach things. So that wasn't comfortable or benefiting me at all. And the amount of gut issues and the amount of acne and skin issues that I was dealing with was horrendous. It was the worst that I'd ever dealt with, even worse than when I was on drugs. And so I was like, okay, hold on here. Like, this is not working. And I'm just following everything that I've read in, the NASM books that I got for my certification on how to be able to build muscle, build, weight on the body, and was following the different things of some of the friends that I had made that were in bodybuilding, or people, on these social media platforms and what they were saying. And as that is like the industry standard is eat tons of protein, have a calorie surplus to get big. However, though, I found for me personally, it didn't work. I didn't enjoy that. All right. I was uncomfortable. There's a lot of times where my body was in pain. And again, my gut and my skin, obviously, all right, were signs that my body was unhappy with what I was doing. So I was like, okay, we gotta learn some more. We gotta figure this stuff out because this is not working. So that's when I really started getting into the holistic side of things. All right. Luckily for me, though, I do have a history with the holistic health, as my mom, or both my parents were in the fitness and health industry for my entire life, and they still are. Um, my mom, though, specifically has been into more so the holistic or Eastern medicine side of things, where I never saw any doctors when I was a kid because the first doctor that I saw, I had some jabs and they did not go well. I had a very bad reaction. And I don't remember it personally because I was like 2 years old. But the doctor, I guess him and my mom got into it really badly and the situation was terrible. Um, my mom did have a holistic doctor, acupuncturist that she was friends with and that I saw as well. But in order to go to schools, in order to do the stuff with the system, you got to go to the doctor who's in the system working for the pharmaceutical industries. So I hope I don't get another restriction. I don't know. I got 2 restrictions on here. I don't know what those mean or anything like that. But again, I'm just trying to explain my story. So hopefully I don't get any other restrictions and get kicked off here because things are going well for being new here on TikTok. But anyways, all right. My mom, that didn't go well. So I stopped seeing a doctor, a normal doctor after that. I only saw my holistic doctor, an acupuncturist, and whatnot. And, so I have quite a bit of knowledge from that. I understand, for the most part, you know what different herbs and stuff to take when I don't feel good. It's important to eat fruits and vegetables. You know what I mean? But more so, it's more of the healing stuff. When you get sick, what to take. You've got a cough, a sore throat. If you've got the flu, if you've got congestion, what to be able to take. I didn't quite understand like why they all happened and stuff like that. I just knew from a kid, from what my mom would give me, that like these are some of the things that you want to take. So I started to dive deeper into that. I still, had a relationship with my acupuncturist and whatnot. She actually helped give me quite a few herbs to get off of my drugs and help with my PTSD and just the mental state and everything, because there are herbs and stuff for that. And that definitely helped. All right. When I would get anxiety or I would flip out on different things, I would take some of the herbs she would give me. One is Rescue Remedy that is actually out for everyone, but most of them she would make for me on her own personally. I would tell her what's going on. She's like, all right, come back tomorrow and I'm going to make you a tincture or homeopathic for you to be able to take. So I was very fortunate and extremely grateful to be able to have her in my life to be able to help me with that. But luckily, I remembered most of the stuff from her and as well as from my mom, and everything, that how she raised us eating and what we took and all that kind of stuff. I was a vegetarian until about 5 years old. And then, come Thanksgiving when I was 5, my grandma gave me a piece of ham and then I wanted meat after that. So yeah, that's just kind of a little bit of background on, some of the knowledge that I had being able to grow up. And I'm very grateful and fortunate, with that. My parents were, like I said, both still in the health and fitness industry. My dad's more so the fitness side of things, and my mom is more so of the nutrition, the yoga, all of that stuff. She was a massage therapist, reflexologist, and she was a little personal trainer. She actually got my dad into personal training before I was born. But yeah, they're very much into that space. So I kind of already had some of that stuff, a foundation of that stuff before I got into it. But again, I got into it on my own terms. I got into it because I felt good with it and I saw hope for myself and I saw that these were people that I wanted to be around. So I dove in. But again, with that, back into my focus on aesthetics and bodybuilding and all of that, a lot of that was insecurities, on why I wanted to be that big. Again, I'd never been that big before. I was always, skin and bones and stuff like that, being addicted to drugs, especially the ones that I was on. And so I wanted to change that. I kind of went from one end of the spectrum all the way over to the other one, which wasn't healthy or good. And again, I explained, I found those things out. So I started going back to my roots. I started, talking again to my doctor and acupuncturist, started talking to my mom a little bit more on like, hey, I'm dealing with all these things. What should I do? And they guided me through and they said, hey, start doing this. start researching this, here, take this, here, come in, we'll start working on some acupuncture and some different muscle test therapies to figure out what your body needs to basically detox. All right, detox all of the crap that I had been shoveling in my mouth and taking. All right, these protein shakes are extremely toxic to your gut, and that's why I was having all the skin issues. All right, I was having major acne, and I was having candida flare ups and all of these different things because of what I was eating, and I didn't like it. Right, and so I wanted to change that. So I was able to realize that it was from the food that I was eating and my stomach, all right, my gut microbiome, that was extremely unhappy with all the things that I was putting in. Again, those protein shakes, all right, it's not real food. That shit's made in a lab. You have no clue what is actually in it. All right. And then on top of that, you start looking at these high calorie ones because you want to bulk up. And most of all those are made with whey or creatine. And creatine is a popular one on right now. All right. But those all come from a dairy source. All right. And you get into dairy. All right, majority of, especially in America, all of our dairy products are full of crap. All right, you get the added hormones, the antibiotics, you get so much shit that they inject into the cows. And then not only that, the living environments and the stress that gets put on a living thing, all right, affects every aspect about them, right? So if a cow or something that we plan on using for consumption, whether it be the milk or the flesh, the stress on the body is going to be pushed through whatever you're going to consume. So that's why it's important when you're looking at, purchasing meats, or if you are going to consume dairy, that what state those animals, those beings were in before you consume it. All right. Not only, I'm not going to get into the whole, like, you're supporting, these types of environments for these animals and whatnot, but, we do support that by purchasing it. We do support what they put in and how they treat these animals by buying it, and so that's what I learned. And I started detoxing my body. I started getting off all the dairy, got off all of the supplements and everything like that, and just really focused on detoxing my body, rebuilding my gut, rebuilding, and detoxing my liver, my kidneys, and just, bringing balance and health back into the inside of my body. And that was an interesting process. I learned the most about my nutrition and everything through that process. And that was probably, I want to say, about 6 years ago. And so now I've been on, this more holistic journey where primarily, I like to call it, where I am a vegetarian the first half of the day, and then like paleo carnivore the second half of the day. I like food, right? I eat meat. I even eat out. I get fast food every once in a while. All right. Mainly because I have kids, and, my son's favorite place to eat is In-N-Out. So, we schedule in 1 to 2 times a week to be able to eat out and create that balance and have fun a little bit. However, though, depending on what we eat, I try to be able to keep good stuff that we're going to go eat, and not just, complete crap. But I have a focus in on for the next day of how I'm going to be able to detox my body and flush out the bad stuff, right? And that just comes down to balance. Like, okay, I'm going to have this, I'm going to indulge, I'm going to have something that I know that's not good for me, but these things also make me feel happy, and they help my family feel happy. It's a good time. It's a good experience. And knowing that I'm not going to have that same thing again tomorrow, all right, I'm going to focus in on being able to give things for my, eat food and consume stuff that's going to support my body, and help flush out those things, through the gut, through the intestines, through the liver, through the kidneys, all of our detoxifying organs and everything, and be able to help put stuff in the body that's going to support my body in that way. And that's all just comes down to balance, you know what I mean? And then understanding, obviously, we all are going to have different health issues as we continue to go through this life. But then, a big one was COVID happened, right? COVID happened. Everyone was fucking scared of getting sick, and people are still scared of getting sick. And if you're one of those people that find yourself getting anxiety, getting scared, you're judging other people, if they sneeze or cough or, any of that, I encourage you to try to work on that. I encourage you to try to work on that, because that is stress on the body, big stress on the body. And if anything, that is what's going to really get you sick, or at least deteriorate your immune system, than someone else that's around you that's coughing or sneezing or anything like that. And the more you take care of yourself and the less stress you have in your life, the less ability your immune system's going to get attacked and taken over. And that's why we get sick, right? And so that's my biggest thing. During COVID, it was tough because, again, I had told you that I had a very bad experience when I was a toddler with the jabs. And now, like, that's what it was all about. And everyone was like, I can't wait for this product to come out to save the world. And then it was like, I play music. Again, I was playing music during then. And one of my bands that was playing a lot of music leading up to that was a punk band. And I'm in a punk band because I told you I don't like rules, and I make my own life and I make my own standards, and I'm all about that. I don't like anyone telling me what to do and blah, blah, blah. So, like, I'm a punk. Okay. I got anarchy written on my elbow, and it's not the type of anarchy to go destroy stuff. It's anarchy, which means living by your own rules, you creating your own reality. And granted, there's two sides to that. You can do bad things or you can do good things. And that's just really up to each individual and how they live their life. But for me, I want to do good things, right? I want to break all the bad rules and be able to help people understand and educate themselves on how to really take care of themselves, because the person who's pulling all the strings, or the multiple people that are pulling all the strings, all right, they don't want you to know any of that, because then you won't be able to fill their pockets with your money and your hard work and your time, and you won't be a slave to the system anymore. So, all right, that's what I'm all about. All right. And again, I've been on here for an hour now. First time going live on TikTok. I got 2 restriction notifications. Not sure if that was me talking about my past drug addictions, or if I said the wrong words or whatnot. I don't know. I'll learn. But overall, all right, I am here in this space to be able to help individuals on their journey of creating the best life that you can create, both internally, externally, and mentally, right? Mind, body, and soul. That's what I want to be able to help people bring all together. And, being new on this platform, there's billions of people on here that I don't know, that haven't ever heard my story or seen the things that I talk about and all of that. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to meet more individuals here. I'm excited to hear your stories as well. I'm excited to answer your guys' questions that align with the things that I talk about and everything like that. And honestly, I am truly grateful for the amount of people that have liked my stuff, that have started following me. And I've been on here for, I think it's coming up to a month now. I mean, I started in COVID because I was bored as fuck. And I started posting some of the stupid stuff that don't align with what I do. I just was trying to do that to be able to gain followers. And I was bored, really. But I came back, all right, and I started talking and putting out what I really do and how I really want to help people and focus on that. So again, I am grateful to each and every one of you that have started following me and that have shown some love and that have appreciated what I put out here. And I hope that you guys are learning some stuff. I really encourage you to send me a message or comment on my stuff. I try to be able to respond to every single comment that's on here. If it's a specific question, I'll go into detail about that question. If you haven't realized, I like to talk. So trust me, I will talk to you. I will answer your questions. I will give you the best advice that I can give you from my own personal experience and what I've learned along my journey. But overall, I'm almost at 1,000 followers and in less than a month. And I'm just very grateful to be able to see that people enjoy and they appreciate what I bring to this space. So with that being said, I'm getting hungry now. I need to go eat some of my fruit because, again, I'm vegan for half the day, and then I get to have my meats and complex carbs the second half of my day. But it feels good for me. Like, I enjoy it. So it's not like I'm like forcing myself. Like, I've gotten into this lifestyle to the point that I enjoy it. It feels good and it supports my body in the way that I want to be supported. So again, message me, leave comments, share my stuff with people that you feel that can benefit from what I'm bringing to this space. But ultimately, I hope you have the most amazing day ever. We'll see you next time I go live. When's that going to be? I don't know, but we'll see you next time. Bye.